Hello everyone, I'm your host Thomas28 and welcome to Cuboid Outpost, where we'll be living for the next couple weeks. As you can see, there's literally nothing here. Endless snow, and a little outpost, and the sun. That's it. Now I do like these little door sensors. They basically work as like, what are they called? I forget the name. Pressure plates, that's it. Which are very nice. And this is where we're going to be living for the next couple of months. Now, as you can see here, we have 5 chapters we're going to have to work through in order to escape the Cuboid Outpost, and a couple of appendixes, which are, I guess, are just for, like, helpful tips. So, like, fluid transport, gas transport, energy transfer, moving items, networks for X-Men. I have no idea what that means, but I guess it's something to do with that. Interesting. Squared array, that's applied energist. Okay, so we have applied energistics and refined storage. I don't really understand packs that include both when one is good enough for reference meshes and tree puns for completionists. Cool. But now we're going to start with a new life, and this is quite a lot of stuff to do just for the first chapter. Now then, let's take a look around our little outpost and see what we got. So we start with an ME crafting terminal and a basic setup with some free materials, some free snowballs. I did notice that there's this guy over here. Oh, it's making water for us. Interesting. Not sure why we're going to need water, but that's nice to have. We have a fridge. Very nice. A sink. I wonder if the sink... probably not. Usually this sink provides infinite water, but since we're making water in the crucible, that might not be the case. A pulverizer, furnace, and centrifugal separator. And what is in this room? A little bit of storage and a bed. Nice. Now if we take a look outside at the roof, we do have what looks to be 2 solar panels and 2 windmills that are giving us power, so that should be good enough for the early game. But for now, we need to crack ourselves through the core using Ultimine and harvest some Notsogudium ore, which is actually pretty easy thanks to Ultimine. And with that, we can see we have a bunch of Notsogudium pieces, silica dust, and carbon deposits. Now I believe we're just going to be taking all of the Notsogudium pieces, turning those into Notsogudium chunks, like so, and then converting the chunks into ingots. So now we can grab some Notsogudium ingots, finish off the quest, and then it says we can make a bucket out of these. This is not a bucket. How do I make a bucket? Oh, here we go. It wants us to get 16 of these. Okay, that's why the quest is not completed, so we'll wait just a little bit. And with that, quest is completed. And now, it said we can make it out of a bucket, and that's why. It's a different shape. But we can also make these bowls. Notsogudium bowl, Notsogudium bucket. Not quite sure what we need a bucket for, but it does act and look like an iron bucket. And then we can take our ingots, turn those into rods, take our carbon deposits, turn that into coal, and when we combine the two, we can make torches. Nice. And now, the next thing on our list, it wants us to make some Notsogudium tools and armor. So helmet, chestplate, all the regular stuff, and a Notsogudium sword, which is not so good. Go ahead and make another rod, combine that to make the sword, and then I believe the armor should be just like that. Perfect. Chestplate, pants, helmet, and our boots. Now we're all geared up. It's like discount diamond armor. It kind of even looks like a washed out diamond armor. Now, you might have noticed that we're going to need a lot more materials. Luckily, there is an ancient manual device specifically designed for smashing through large areas of rock at a rapid pace. Grab some of the Notsogudium ingots, make some rods and blocks, and make yourself the first smasher. So we take 2 of the rods, we're going to make 2 of these blocks of Notsogudium, then combine this into that to make the smasher. Now, I do have to question, though, the smasher makes more sense if we didn't have Ultimine, but I'm not actually sure if Ultimine existed in the prior version, because this is the newer version of Cuboid Outpost. As you can see, it breaks like that. But in the older one, if it didn't have Ultimine, then I guess you didn't really need this guy. But it might have a much bigger durability. We're going to have to find out. But night is coming, so we're probably going to have to fight some mobs in order to get some materials. But, of course, instead of fighting, we're just going to sleep through the night, and then should be able to just harvest the rotten flesh and the bones, leaving only the spiders and the creepers. But they should be pretty easy to handle. Yeah, this sword is basically worthless. It does like half a heart of damage, which is essentially nothing. Oh, this guy's buffed because of his backpack. And he does drop it. Nice. One backpack with nothing inside, but I'm going to take that. And it does have stuff inside. Nice. Not sure if that's going to break any progression. Probably not, as it's just wheat, but that is pretty good to get. Now, we did only get one bone. I was kind of hoping to get a little bit more, but I don't see any other drops outside. And then to finish off the quest, we will need to slay one spider for a spider eye. And a little bit of string always goes a long way, which is pretty nice to have. But now that we got a little bit of bone meal, we can take our Notsogudium bowls and the bone meal and the water in order to make some broth, which is what we're going to be eating for the foreseeable future. And there's a leak in my roof. And now for the next big part of progression, we need to craft ourselves one furnace out of Notsogudium chunks and silica. Then we're going to take this furnace and combine it with something. Where is it? I believe it's just Notsogudium ingots. Furnace, Notsogudium ingots. No. How do I make this? Notsogudium furnace. Oh, I just put too many. There we go. Notsogudium furnace. And now we need to craft ourselves the Notsogudium quantum collapser using the Notsogudium furnace and then 8 blocks of Notsogudium. Hopefully we have just enough, and we're short by a lot. And there we go. Now we're not short. Combine all of this, combine with that, to make the Notsogudium quantum collapser. Quest completed. Now, quantum singularities are a bit of a pain to make initially, but will significantly improve your quality of life in the near future. Put in the effort now and start the process of making some. Note that the collapser doesn't need power, and you can hopper inputs into the top and extract them from any other side. You can also manually insert items straight into the collapser from its user interface. For now, we recommend at least making one from 320 Notsogudium ingots. Note, if you pick up the collapser, it will lose its progress. So we can throw the collapser right here, chest on top, and then throw a hopper. That is not where you go. Then throw the hopper here. And now we need to collapse this into the singularity, which is going to take Notsogudium ingots and quite a lot of them. So right now we have 4. Now what we can do to make things go a little bit faster is we can take our pulverizer and configure the auto output to the right. Throw that in there. This is going to pulverize the Notsogudium chunks into double the Notsogudium dust, which will then get smelted in here. And if we set the left side to input, we can automatically start producing Notsogudium ingots. Then we can throw the Notsogudium ingots into the chest and begin compression. Now we need 320 of these, so we're going to have to get to work getting some more Notsogudium. Okay, so obviously waiting for the pulverizer to pulverize and then the redstone furnace to furnicize into the Notsogudium quantum collapser will take a long time. So I added 4 furnaces, and because efficiency isn't everything, we can use a smoosher to manually break down our Notsogudium chunks into double the dust for a very, very low cost, just like that. Now we can furnace 5 times as many as before. Now I just got to continue getting some more Notsogudium dust to turn into chunks to turn into, wait. We have to get Notsogudium pieces to turn into Notsogudium chunks to turn into dust to turn into ingots to then feed into the quantum collapser. But now that we can do it 5 times as fast, it should be done 5 times faster. And I think we're done. We needed 39 more. So let me split this. That's 40, 39. And now it's compressing 320 Notsogudium ingots into a Notsogudium singularity. Da-da-da-da! Completed! Notsogudium quantum singularity. Why is this quest not completing? Did I do something wrong? Oh, there it goes. And then optionally, we can make a silica dust quantum singularity out of blocks of silica dust. How much is that going to take, though? Because I don't have a ton of silica dust. 347. We could turn this into a block using 9. Seems like it'll be a lot more expensive. Maybe I'll work on that later. But as you can see, by using all of these furnaces, we were able to speed up the production quite fast. And now the only thing better than mining is being able to choose not to. Mining all that Notsogudium by hand is not all that hard, but I'm sure you're starting to feel like you have better things to do. Luckily, through the wonders of modern science, you should now be in a position to make the first tier SRG. The Notsogudium Singularity Resource Generator is a fantastic piece of equipment that uses quantum singularities to generate free resources at a steady rate. Later on, you'll be in a position to build higher tier SRGs, but for now, let's focus on getting the basic Notsogudium SRG up and running. Once you've got it, simply put in a quantum singularity of the type you want resources for, and it'll do its magic. You can use a hopper to automatically extract what is generated or grab some from inside the interface. So to make this, we're just going to need 2 Notsogudium furnaces, a bunch of Notsogudium blocks, and a Notsogudium crafting table. So let's go ahead and grab all of our Notsogudium ingots here from out of all of our furnaces. Almost 2 stacks, that should be enough. And we need to craft ourselves 1 Notsogudium. Oh, I need the chunks. I converted all of the chunks into dust. That's a little annoying, and I can't convert the dust back into chunks, can I? You cannot. So we're going to have to do a little bit of mining. Okay, so now we should have enough of everything. Convert this into chunks, like so. Make ourselves 1 Notsogudium crafting table. Then we need 2 Notsogudium furnaces, which will take 2 of these regular furnaces. Then convert those into Notsogudium furnaces using our ingots. Then we need 6 blocks of Notsogudium, and then we can combine it into the Notsogudium Singularity Resource Generator. Quest completed. Now where should we throw this guy? I guess we'll just put it on this side right here for now, because it said we can hopper out of it. So if we put this at the top, and then I steal this, mostly because I realize this kind of automation is pretty useless unless you already have like the required number anyway. We can put the chest here, put this there, then throw the singularity inside, and it's way too tiny to read. But you can see we're now slowly generating Notsogudium chunks at a very steady rate of about 1 every 1.5 seconds, or every 30 ticks, which is pretty solid. Now then, the next quantum we need to collapse is going to be the block of coal singularity, which we've been using to power all of our furnaces. Now we do have a pretty solid supply, but I'm guessing it's going to cost quite a lot of coal. So out of everything we had, that is now 3. If we take a look here, throw this inside, we only need 32 blocks of coal, so it's actually not that bad. We should be able to generate enough coal just by mining even more. 1 hammer later, and we have obtained, let's see how much coal, 55, which should translate into another 6. So not too bad of a ratio. So it seems like a single hammer, and that hammer was already broken up a little bit, should translate into about 8 blocks of coal. So it really shouldn't take any more than 4 more hammers, maybe 3. But of course, if I cannibalize all the fuel that was in the furnaces, that should be able to get us 21 more. So now we just need 2 blocks of coal. So now all I have to do now is quickly make ourselves, where's all, it's so annoying. Because you can craft so many different types, it doesn't get what I want the first time. Make the rod, make the blocks of Notsogudium, and make another smasher, and this smasher should be able to get us enough coal to finish off the singularity. And why does it sound like he's getting closer? Oh, he's right outside, that's why. But now, we should be able to have just enough coal. I believe we just needed 2 more. Throw that in here. And now we can produce our coal singularity. And why is this guy chilling on my front porch? Open up, thank you. And now we have the coal quantum singularity completed. Now we are going to have to make another Notsogudium singularity resource generator, but then we can also generate free coal at 0 expense. So now we can place our new generator, 1 chest, 1 hopper, and throw in our coal singularity, and now we can produce infinite free coal at the same rate. Now then, the green revolution. Recycling starts at home. I have probably 1,000 water bottles in my basement that I keep telling myself I'm going to take to the recycling place to get my 5 cents back. but now that it's grown too large, I'm too lazy to actually do it. Anyways, we've just about reached the point where we are running out of resources that will actually allow us to progress. Luckily, your outpost came with a few bits and bobs that we can repurpose for something that will hopefully prove useful moving forwards. We believe that it's possible to build a molecular recycler using some of the local materials along with some of the things your outpost came equipped with. You're going to need to sacrifice that centrifugal separator, it's kind of useless now anyway, and one of the advanced energy cubes in the ceiling. Those should be able to be combined with a singularity and some of the materials and machines you've already made out of the local resources. So to make this, we're going to have to combine any singularity with 2 Notsogudium furnaces, our centrifugal separator, the energy cube, a singularity resource generator, 2 Notsogudium crafting tables, and a hopper. And that will produce the molecular recycler, which recycles specific items imperfectly. As you can see here, how it recycles, we have no idea. It just works. Okay, so let's see here. So I would really like our ME system to not turn off. So we're going to keep that battery there. Or maybe we need at least one battery. So I think what we need to do is we just have to disconnect this part of the ceiling, steal the power from the magma crucible because we could just move this later. So we're going to take some of these pipes, these basic universal cables. Then we're going to run the cables across this way. Let me move the light. That way we have the power here. And then if we go up on the roof, we should be able to see just where the power is getting connected into the energy cubes. So as you can see here, they're not really all that different, like so. So if we're going to steal this energy cube here, what we can do is just take that and then just connect it directly to the grid. So now we'll have this one as a pseudo backup from this, while the rest will just be hotwired directly into the power grid. Then we also have to take our centrifugal separator, then one more coal singularity later, throw in 3 blocks of coal. We should have everything we need in order to craft ourselves one molecular recycler. Now, what exactly are we going to be recycling that this is going to be useful for? Coal singularity, come in here, and craft molecular recycler. And we'll put this guy right here, I guess. It needs power. Okay, so we can't put it right here. We need to put it where it gets power. So I guess we'll put it in the spot here, because we can hopper in and out of it. Doing your bit for the environment, you probably only need one for now. Let's face it, those solar power thingies on the roof are decent, but not so decent as to be a big problem if you lose one. So lose one. Get up on the roof, knock one of the advanced solar generators down, and feed it into the recycler. Since the solar doodad contains a bunch of redstone as ingredients in the component pieces, you should hopefully get some of it back in its raw form along with other materials. If you're going to need a block of the stuff, so if you come up short, you can try recycling the other one. Well, in that case, I sure do hope we actually get our items back from this guy, so we need to tear down one of these, and I guess we'll tear down this one. Oh wait, it's at the solar generator, right? So now take the solar generator, throw it into the recycler, and now we're recycling the solar generator, and hopefully we get 9 pieces of redstone. And we got 13. Nice. Along with osmium, gold, infused alloy, some glass, and that's it. And there's the Enderman outside. Scary. But now we can take our redstone, make it into a block of redstone, and work on a new source of power, putting singularities to work. Now then, it's a good thing I kept making Notsogudium ingots, because now to make the Notsogudium power generator, we're going to need 4 blocks of Notsogudium, along with 4 Notsogudium furnaces, which will take 4 regular furnaces upgraded to Notsogudium furnaces, which will take another 4 Notsogudium ingots. But then that's actually a pretty easy craft, and now we can produce passive power based on the tier of the generator and the singularity used. Now in this case, the only thing we can power it with is a coal singularity. So once again, we need to burn all of our coal to make a singularity. Luckily, we had just enough in our backlog to make another one right away. So now take the 32, throw that in there, and then it said we can just connect it to the cabling. So we should be able to just throw this on the roof and then leave it alone forever. The same with this guy. So we can actually just put it right... Why is there a hole right here? Did I put that there? I don't remember. So we should be able to just throw it in right here and then add in the coal singularity to start generating some passive power. Coal quantum singularity. and into the generator. And it's working. We're slowly generating it. I don't think it's 40 Fe per tick. I wonder, does it show you? Dark oak, spruce, coal. So the Notsogudium generator is producing 4 Fe per tick, which isn't a crazy amount, but it is free power. And now, the next machine we're going to be crafting will require us to tear down our redstone furnace and the ME controller as we craft the quantum transmutation chamber, which will transmute materials into other materials. Pretty sad. Alright, goodbye, redstone furnace. I hardly knew ye. Goodbye, controller. I hardly knew ye. I technically don't need the controller, but then what I will need, let's see, if we're not using the pulverizer, actually, just move the pulverizer. We could just do this right there, and then we need the controller. We need to move the... Oh, thank God. Since it sounded like glass breaking, I thought we literally just lost it. Do that, energy acceptor, energy cell, and there we go. Power is back online. So we're going to be limited to 8 channels since we don't have a controller, but that should be fine. So now throw this in there, throw that in there, and we need 2 singularities, 2 redstone, and a hopper. So we have just enough redstone, which is perfect. We're going to need a hopper. So I'm going to go ahead and move this furnace here because we can still export the items. So I can still take our Notsogudium chunks and throw them into the pulverizer to export into the furnace so we can continuously make more ingots. But at this point, it's probably going to be easier just to continue to make coal singularities. And another 32 blocks of coal later, we can produce one more coal quantum singularity and then finish off the quantum transmutation chamber. I wonder, does this take power? If it does, we could probably just slap it on somewhere, throw that inside, and craft the quantum transmutation chamber. Do you need power? You do. Perfect. No E in this project. And now, with the quantum transmutation chamber completed, you can see the path really splits off. So now we can go to, I told you it could be better, mine it, transmute it, or generate it with could be better chunks. Better than Notsogudium. We can also start making the most abundant organic compound, cellulose. But there's none on this planet. We can break down silicon into glass and make protein paste. So now let's quantum transmute some protein paste using our rotten flesh and silica dust. So rotten flesh, silica dust, in our quantum transmutation chamber will produce protein paste. The quest is completed, and that unlocks for us, please sir, I want some more, some gruel. By adding a dollop of protein paste to the broth, you get a more fulfilling and somewhat fragrant bowl of gruel. Then we can also cook the protein paste into protein bars, which provides a lot more food and nutrition. And currently we lack the materials to make a raw kebab at this time. We need to slay some spiders, so we'll put that off for later. But that's all the food. So now to continue on this way, we're going to have to get glass, which is pretty easy, as we can turn all of the silica dust into glass at a 1-to-1 ratio. But first, let's go ahead and craft ourselves the silica dust quantum singularity so we never have to run out. And it is going to take 96 blocks of silica dust, so that is going to be quite the challenge. Let's see, we have 644, 64, 71, we need 96. So we're going to need a lot more silica dust. Luckily we do get a little bit more by pulverizing Notsogudium chunks at a very small rate, but I'm going to have to go mining quite a bit. Luckily, it's a dual-purpose mining, because we can also start looking for could-be better chunks. And then finally, after hitting Y level 35, we finally locate the lair of could-be better ore. The next tier of our materials. Notsogudium, there it is. Very hard to tell the difference, it all looks exactly the same. Could be better pieces. But now, could be better, it's slightly faster than Notsogudium, so we're going to have to collect quite a lot of this. And then, once you mine a little bit deeper, we hit the pinnacle of what we can mine. Not half-badium ore, but we can't actually mine it using our Notsogudium smasher, as it requires at least iron tier, but that is the highest we can actually mine, as you can see here, not half-badium, which can be mined. The next one cannot be mined. It has to be manufactured. Wackidium has to be made in quantum transmutation using not arfbadium chunks. So this is as deep as we can go until we can find something that can mine this stuff. But now after all those mining trips, we have enough silica dust in order to craft our silicon singularity. So we just need, what, 32 there, to make one singularity quantum collapser. No, that is not what it's called. To make the silicon quantum singularity. Now then, we are going to need another one of these singularity resource generators, but now that we have access to Could Be Beta, we can make an even higher tier singularity resource generator, which will be 4 times as efficient. And now we have a Could It Be Beta furnace, which is faster than a vanilla furnace, and now we could turn our blocks of silica dust into glass. So now that we have glass, we can turn some of this into bottles, then take some of our carbon deposits, grab the water out of our fluid tank, which I should be able to just... Can I not do it like that? You can't just pull it out? That's so weird. You would think... Oh, maybe because I have torches? Huh. Fill. Empty. You would think you could just put the bottles in there. Okay, I guess not, but we can fill from this. But it takes a full bucket? That doesn't make much sense to me. Anyways, so now that we have this, we can go into our quantum transmutation chamber. We can add in carbon deposit and bottles of water, which I don't understand why it takes so much to fill a single bottle, but now we can use that to make cellulose. And this is much cheaper than using a bucket of water. Okay, so it is a little funky. So if you use a water bucket, it gives you the bucket back, but then you can't automate it like if I were to use glass bottles, because then you could fill up a hopper and a chest with glass bottles to keep it going for quite a while, but then that costs a lot of glass. So that's a little funky. I'm not quite sure why it works like that. It's a bit weird. But for now, we just need to get enough cellulose to continue through the quest book. And now we can combine the silica dust and glass, and this should make into sand. And it does. Perfect. And now if we swap out the silica for coal, this should make carbon nanotubes, which is a pretty oversimplification of how you make these. But at least it works in our favor. Which, now that all of these prerequisites are finished, we can finally build a stick. By combining cellulose with carbon nanotubes, we can produce one stick for 15,000 FE, a pretty expensive craft. So combine the carbon nanotubes with the cellulose, and this will make one stick. And then with the stick, we can sprout a tree. So while we wait for our stick production, we should be able to craft ourselves some organically enriched sand. Now, we are all out of other materials needed to make this. Actually, we just need more cellulose for that, really. But hopefully we don't need too much more. And now with 9 sticks, we can go ahead and combine this into a bundle of sticks. And now if we combine the stick bundle with a block of cellulose, we can produce a sapling. For an extremely high cost, by the looks of it. 45,000 FE and 30 seconds to produce one oak sapling. Now before we can plant it, we will need a 4-letter dirty word starting with a D, which means we're going to have to continue down our path over here to get nut arfbadium and wackidium. And now that I've crafted a Could Be Beta smasher, we can mine the not arfbadium ore. So now that we have a bunch of not half badium chunks, we can then combine these in the quantum transmutation chamber. At least we're supposed to. There we go. I don't know why it wouldn't let me do it. Huh, weird. You can't shift into both of them, but it does work to make wackidium chunks. And now that we have wackidium chunks, we can produce wackidium dust and protein fiber. Protein fiber is made from our protein paste and wackidium dust. So now, we take... Where's my smoosher? Smoosher. There it is, our smoosher, and combine it with the wackidium chunk, we get 2 wackidium dust. Then if we take our protein, we can take the protein, and then take this out of there, and combine these to make, I already forget what it's called, protein fibers. Then we can take our protein fiber, and do something with it, and that something is combine it with our organically enriched sand to make dirt. So now if we grab our organically enriched sand, and we probably don't need to make more than one, that's fine. We can combine these two to produce dirt. And now I can grab the rest of our not half badium chunks to continue processing it, and grab our sapling with our dirt, throw the rest of that in there. Yeah, see, you can't shift click it, but you can manually put it in. And now that we have our dirt and we have our sapling, we can go ahead and finish the final main quest in the first chapter. Wouldn't it be nice? I already forgot the name. Not the name, I forgot the rest of the lyrics. But can we twerk to work it? Does not seem to be the case, so we'll have to wait for this to grow. And I just finished making an X, and it did grow. Nice. Now, funny enough, the quest book does mention you can actually twerk to grow the tree. There's no crook in here, right? Crook. They do have crooks. Can I craft a crook? Dripstone, bone, basalt, blackstone, any that I can craft. If we get some sticks, which we have wood, that should be able to let us get a bit more saplings. So if we do this, into that, into that, into this, then take that into crook, and then take the crook, we should be able to get some more saplings out of this. Perfect. There we go. More saplings. Now all we need is more dirt, and then we can grow more wood, and then we can be free of the basics of Chapter 1. Okay, the quest book mentioned that you can twerk. I guess it is working. There's just no indicator. And free food. Perfect. You gotta love it. And with that, we have enough wood to finish off the quest and finally get access to Getting Going, where we're going to be doing some ex nihilo. But before we end the episode, what I want to accomplish before we finally move on to the next part of the Chapter 1 is passively automate that'll do chunks until we can produce a that'll do singularity. So the first step is we're going to need to mine quite a lot of not half badium in order to convert it into our Wickidium chunks. So I got 2 hammers, 2 could be better smashers. It should be enough. So now with 2 hammers we were able to yield a metric ton of not half badium. Now we're going to start converting all of the not half badium into Wickidium, and then we're going to take our Wickidium and smash it into dust. That way we can turn this dust into ingots, and then turn the ingots into the singularity, which will take 320 Wickidium ingots. So we're already about, this is like 128, so we're like 33% of the way there. So to make everything go faster, I took all the regular furnaces and upgraded them into could be better furnaces. Now these furnaces are smelting not half badium to make not half badium ingots. Then we can upgrade all the could be better furnaces into not half badium furnaces. And then we can take the not half badium furnaces and upgrade those into Wickidium furnaces. And then we can smelt Wickidium chunks even faster. And now all 5 furnaces are upgraded to Wickidium furnaces. These each take 5.5 seconds to smelt, whereas the vanilla takes 10. And now after more smelting, we have 360 Wickidium ingots, and we can throw those into our Notsogudium quantum collapser. Only another stack, there we go, 320, to produce the Wickidium quantum singularity. Bam. But I realize now that if you want to take the singularity resource generator, as you can see here, singularity resource generator, and you want to upgrade it from Notsogudium to could be better than not Badium, and then Wickidium, and then that'll do, you have to start it with the Notsogudium resource generator. You cannot wait, can you tier skip? Could be better. Oh wait, you can actually just craft it directly. You can upgrade it, or you can craft it directly from that tier. So now that we have access to Wickidium, we could just use Wickidium to make Wickidium singularity resource generators. I thought you couldn't tier skip. Okay, this changes everything. So now that we have 130 Wickidium ingots, we should be able to make this. So we need 6 blocks of Wickidium combined with a Wickidium crafting table, which will take Wickidium chunks, done, plus 2 Wackidium furnaces, which we can make with a regular furnace surrounded by Wackidium. And then add our Wackidium ingots, and we can make the Wackidium Singularity Resource Generator, which I can now read it. I understand what I'm looking at now. As you can see here, and it's different per resource, so if we take a look here at this guy and go in here, in the Wackidium Resource Generator, we can produce 16 chunks of Wackidium every second. So now, if we place this guy here, add you, grab a funnel, not a funnel, it's a hopper, and use our Wackidium to make a Wackidium chest, so we can store even more stuff. Plop you here, place the hopper there. We're now generating massive amounts of Wackidium. We can't even keep up. We can't even keep up with how fast. Look at that. Bam, bam, bam. Instant Wackidium. And now that we have tons and tons of Wackidium, we can now turn this stuff into that'll do ore. And now that we have infinite amounts of Wackidium chunks, using 2 hoppers for some very basic automation, we have hoppers on the top, hopper on the left, pushing the Wackidium inside the quantum transmutation chamber, making that'll do chunks. The that'll do chunks are then pulled into the pulverizer, where they're pulverized into 2 pieces of that'll do dust. That that'll do dust is then turned into that'll do ingots, and then those that'll do ingots then sit in the furnace until I take them out. But now, after we get enough that'll do ingots, we can then convert this into the that'll do quantum singularity and produce infinite that'll do chunks. We just need 360. But now that it's fully automated, I can kind of just sit here and wait for it to finish, which is pretty nice. The big bottleneck here is just the production of that'll do chunks in our quantum transmutation chamber. Technically, now that we have access to infinite that'll do, we could make another quantum transmutation chamber, but the bottleneck there is actually redstone, as we only have one more piece, we only have 2 more pieces of redstone, and to get more I'd have to break down our other solar generator. And while I could just make some more quantum singularity powered generators, I don't quite want to break it down unless we have to. So I'm going to let this run for a while until we can produce our that'll do quantum singularity. And alright, I think that's enough that'll do ingots. 346, we only need like 320, right? There we go. 320 that'll do ingots to produce 1 that'll do quantum singularity. And as you can see, I did upgrade our quantum collapser to the Wackidium version, so it went very fast. And now we just need to build ourselves 1 that'll do singularity resource generator. So I'm going to quickly swap this out for our that'll do version. And as you can see now, we're producing tons and tons of that'll do chunks. And you can see even in this guy, it's pretty slow. As you can see, the that'll do quantum singularity in the Wackidium generator only produces 5.33 per second. In the that'll do version, it'll produce 21.33. And now with all the that'll do resources, 1 that'll do resource singularity. Pop this guy right here, pull that out of here, put you in there, and now we produce 16 extremely fast. Now if we take some more of our that'll do ingots, we should be able to take this and produce another chest. And if we take a hopper, should be able to just plant this guy right here, throw this on top, and we get a massive chest that you can open, and when you break it, it holds the contents, which is pretty nice. And now we have infinite that'll do. And at this point, our ME storage cell is almost full, so luckily we don't have to do anything more than that. But we can upgrade all of our stuff to that'll do tier and continue on next episode. But as always, this episode has gone on quite long enough. I'm your host, Hamas28, and I'll see you all next time.